The sky turned white on a Tuesday, not the soft white of clouds, the searing, absolute white of a sun that had decided, over the course of 6 catastrophic weeks, to cook the surface of the Earth like the inside of an oven. The scientists called it the Varick collapse, a cascade failure in the magnetosphere that stripped away 30% of the planet's heat shielding in a single season. Ordinary people called it simpler things: the end, the burning, the day the air outside started killing. In the capital, the National Survival Registry had been running for 3 months. Every citizen was assessed, ranked, and assigned a numbered slot in one of the 12 evacuation towers. The ranking system was brutal in its logic. Combat class, elemental resistance rating, resource generation score, and social utility index. Hunters and fighters went to the top. Engineers and doctors landed in the middle. Civilians with no class, no skill signature, and no useful trade wound up at the bottom. Calvos wound up at the very end of the list. Registry number 1234. The last name on the last page. Assigned to Evacuation Tower 7. Sublevel 3, the condemned maintenance basement. A space officially rated as unfit for habitation due to broken ventilation and a failed coolant loop from a renovation project that no one had bothered to finish before the sky went white. He found out about his assignment the same morning Riva left. She had her bag packed before he woke up. His supply card, the one linked to his 200-calorie daily allotment, was already in her jacket pocket. She told him she had thought about it and decided she needed someone with an actual future. Dax, the third-ranked hunter in the capital, had offered her a spot on the Apex Guild's exclusive roster. Shelter floors 1 through 14, filtered air, a full food allocation. She told Kale she was sorry, which she clearly was not, and she told him rank 1234 out of 1234 was not a person she could depend on when the heat outside was already hitting 60 degrees Celsius and climbing. She left without giving back the supply card. Kale stood in the empty apartment for a moment. Then he picked up his bag, one change of clothes, a utility tool, a thermal blanket, and walked to Tower 7. The Apex Guild members on the upper floors didn't bother looking at him as he passed the lobby check-in. Commander Oren, a tall man with a gold-stitched registry band, glanced at his number and said, without looking up from his tablet, that sublevel 3 was accessible by the service stairs at the back. He added that Kale shouldn't expect his ventilation to be repaired before the second quarter, if at all. The service stairs were dark. The basement was darker. Kale descended with a flashlight clipped to his bag strap. The maintenance level smelled of old metal and stale recycled air. The broken coolant pipes ran along the ceiling, and there was a persistent low hum from somewhere deeper in the room that didn't match anything on the building's documented system map. He had worked 3 years as a facilities technician before the collapse. He knew the difference between a dead system and a dormant one. He followed the hum. At the back of the maintenance bay, behind a shelf of rusted spare parts, was a door that did not appear on any floor plan he had ever seen. Brushed steel, intact, with a panel beside it displaying a single input prompt. Clearance required. Registry number. National Survivor Seal Kale pressed his registry card against the panel. A pause. Then the panel lit up green. Rishidri's 1234 confirmed. Sequential clearance complete. All survivor numbers 1 through 1234 registered to Tower 7. Authorization. Sole clearance holder. Welcome. The door opened. He stood at the threshold for a long time. The room beyond was not a maintenance storage space. It was a pre-collapsed government installation. A classified cold storage vault built into the bedrock beneath the tower when the capital was first constructed, designed as a last resort supply reserve for a citywide emergency. The lighting came on in rows as he stepped inside. Clean white panels illuminating corridor after corridor of sealed preservation units. Food, water, medicine, climate-sealed protein stores, nutrient supplements, filtration membranes, portable power cells. The inventory panel near the entrance loaded automatically. Vault inventory, active reserve, preserved food supply, 10,000 person allocation 5. 2 years water filtration, capacity 12,000 liters per day, medical supplies, full trauma and chronic care, 8-year supply power, geothermal tap, continuous, no surface dependency thermal negation core, offline, authorization required to activate. The last item had a separate panel. Kale walked to it. The thermal negation core was a bulky installation bolted to the far wall, a city infrastructure device, the kind that the capital had been quietly building into its underground grid for 15 years as a hedge against industrial heat events. When active, it would commandeer Tower 7's coolant routing and expand a temperature-controlled zone to a 400-meter radius around the building. It would also reroute the city's last operational cooling grid through the vault's geothermal tap, pulling capacity from every other connected system, including the Apex Guild's shelter on the upper floors. The panel was waiting for his authorization. Thermal negation core. Activation requires sole clearance holder. Registry 11234. Kale placed his card against the panel. Activating. Estimated coolant zone. 400-meter radius. External temperature reduction. 6124 degrees within perimeter. Rerouting city grid. Estimated impact on Tower 7 upper floor coolant. 68% reduction. Note. Upper floors retain emergency baseline only. A low, deep vibration moved through the floor. Then, slowly the air in the basement changed. The oppressive heat that had settled into the city's bones for 3 months began to pull back. The maintenance bay outside the vault door, for the first time since the collapse, became simply cool. Kale sat down on a storage crate, opened a sealed ration pack from the nearest unit, and ate a full meal for the first time in 6 weeks. Then he opened the basement's exterior access hatch, the one the building plans listed as a fire exit, and propped it open. Word moved fast in a dying city. By the end of the first day, 12 people had found the hatch. By the end of the second, 60. A technician who had been sleeping on a rooftop in the lethal heat. A medic the guild had classified as low utility. 3 families from a residential block whose community shelter had failed when its solar panels burned out. A former librarian who had been walking 4 hours a night, the only survivable window, looking for anywhere cool enough to sleep. KL gave each of them a number and a section of the vault's storage corridor to sleep in. He organized the food distribution by rotation. He had the medic set up a treatment station near the filtration units. He assigned the technician to help him run the vault's inventory system, which turned out to be more sophisticated than either of them had expected. The system could auto-replenish water filtration and would flag supply, draws to keep consumption within the sustainable limits indefinitely. By day 10, 260 people lived in the vault and its surrounding cooled basement network. 300 by day 14. KL had organized supply lines, work rotations, and a check-in system at the exterior hatch. He did not ask anyone's registry number. He asked if they could work and what they knew how to do. The Apex Guild 12 floors up noticed the temperature change on day 3. They ran diagnostics on day 5. By day 8, their filtered air system was running on 32% capacity. Their food allocation had not changed, but their cooling infrastructure was visibly straining. By day 12, the upper shelter floors were sitting at 38 degrees Celsius and climbing. Apex Guild members began talking about it in tense, clipped tones during their strategy meetings. Commander Oren ordered a full audit of Tower 7's infrastructure. The audit returned a result that nobody on his team understood. The geothermal grid had been commandeered by a sub-level installation that, according to every official floor plan, did not exist. On day 15, a guild envoy was sent to sub-level 3. The envoy, a hunter ranked 47, wearing a guild band, descended the service stairs, walked through the maintenance bay, and stopped when he reached the exterior hatch. Through it, he could see a clean, cool, organized space with 300 people in it, a functioning medical station, and more preserved food than the upper floors had allocated for the next 2 months. He went back upstairs and reported to Commander Oren. Oren came himself on day 17. He arrived at the hatch entrance with 4 ranked hunters at his back and a tablet displaying what remained of Tower 7's official authority structure. He was not accustomed to knocking. He knocked anyway. Kale met him at the hatch. White thermal coat. He had found a clean one in the vault supply stores. Silver white hair, calm expression, no hurry about him at all. Oren explained, in carefully measured tones, that the installation Kale was operating was a city infrastructure resource, and that the Apex Guild, as the officially designated management authority for Tower 7, would be taking over its administration immediately. Kale asked if Oren had a registry clearance card with the number 1234 on it. Oren did not. Kale explained, just as calmly, that the vault's authorization system was sequential. Every registered survivor in Tower 7, 1 through 1234, had to be registered before soul clearance transferred to the final number. That soul clearance was non-transferable and could not be overridden by administrative authority. He had checked thoroughly. Registry Reese 1234. Non-transfolder, system override, not available. The thermal negation core could not be moved, modified, or shut down without the clearance holder's card, which Kale was wearing on a lanyard around his neck. He told Oren that anyone from the upper floors was welcome to enter the vault. There was space. There was enough food for everyone. He was not running an exclusion system. He was running a check-in line. Oren and his hunters were welcome to wait in it. The line that day had 47 people in it. Oren and his 4 hunters took spots at the back. They filed through, one by one, like everyone else. Dax arrived on day 19. He had his combat class and his guild rank and his elemental resistance certification, and none of it meant anything in a world where the enemy was temperature. He was sunburned across both arms, a thing that should not have been possible given how little time anyone spent outside. The heat on the upper floors was doing it. He did not speak when he came through the hatch. He found a section of storage corridor and sat down. Riva arrived on day 20. She was 211 people back in the queue. Kale was at the distribution station at the far end of the main corridor, organizing the day's water rotation with the filtration technician. He heard the familiar sound of her voice. She was asking the check-in coordinator how long the wait was, and he noted it the way a man notes. Weather, factually, without particular weight. He did not turn around. He finished the water rotation. He walked the corridor check with the medic, reviewed the inventory draw for the afternoon, and personally helped carry a supply crate to the family section near the east filtration units because their two youngest children were running a mild fever, and he wanted the medicine closer. By the time Riva reached the front of the queue, Kale was 3 corridors away. The check-in coordinator gave her a section assignment and a ration schedule. She asked quietly if she could speak to whoever was in charge. The coordinator told her the person in charge was currently occupied, and she was welcome to submit a request for a meeting. She did not submit a request. She found her section, sat down against the cool metal wall, and opened the ration pack she had been handed. It was a full allocation. More food than the upper floors had rationed to anyone in a week. She ate without speaking. Outside, 400 meters in every direction, the temperature on the surface was 63 degrees Celsius, and the Apex Guild's emergency baseline was barely keeping the upper floors at 30. 9. The vault's lights hummed steadily overhead. The geothermal tap ran without interruption. The preserved food supply counter, according to the vault's inventory panel, had dropped from 5.2 years to 5.1 years. A rounding adjustment based on the new headcount. It would last. Kale Voss, registry number 1234, the last name on the last page of the National Survivor List, had given him the condemned basement because there was no one lower to give it to. They had given him a dead room and walked away. He had found a door inside it that only his number could open. Outside the hatch, the city was silent and burning. Inside the vault, 340 people ate a full meal for the first time in weeks. The thermal negation core hummed at the base of the wall, steady and unhurried, cooling 400 meters of the only livable space in the capital. And the sole clearance holder, in his white thermal coat, was already at the next corridor checking supply counts for tomorrow. He did not need to look back. There was nothing behind him worth looking at.